So first of all, I have a question to you. So who of you writes tests for your 5 projects? Maybe hands up. Okay, that's pretty good. I ask this question because my talk is not actually about writing the tests, but automating them with the Karma test runner. But if you're interested also in writing your 5 or tests for your 5 projects like OPA5, there's also a talk at 2 p.m. in room C about writing reliable OPA5 tests. So here in this talk I will just only focus on automating existing tests in your project. So first of all, I would like to get you know to the Karma test runner. Then talk about the UI5 plugin we provide for the Karma runner. Then I will have a demo, and at the end a quick outlook. So first of all, the Karma test runner. So who have heard about Karma test runner? Okay, and who is using it? Okay, good. So I hope that most of you will learn a lot in this talk. So the Karma test runner is a tool based on Node.js, which is able to automate test execution. And the great thing about it is that it's based on plugins. So you can have plugins for various frameworks, browsers, and also other plugins and reportings. So it's really flexible. So you can just tweak it in a way you would like to have it for your project. And that's what we also did. So we provided a plugin for UI5. And if you're interested more about how Karma works, there's actually a master thesis, because this was a project of a student working in the Google Angular team. So it was written for the Angular framework for testing Angular, but as it's flexible, it can be used for any other framework. So the PDF is actually part of the GitHub repository, so you can check it out if you want to. So now about the UI5 plugin. So about 4 years ago, when open sourcing OpenUI5, we also provided the Karma OpenUI5 plugin, which at that time was a pretty small helper to insert the SAP UI5 bootstrap in the Karma context, to apply your bootstrap configuration, like registering your resource routes, or doing other configuration you need for your test. It also had mock server support, and later we also introduced auto run of test modules, so that you don't need additional files just for the Karma execution. But with that, we also faced some challenges, which that you have different configuration for Karma and the normal HTML setup. So if you run your test page just in the browser, then this might be different than when it's automated with Karma. And that's because you have different bootstrap configurations. So if you change something, you need to sync that. And those of you who are using the plugin, I guess you know that. And we also face this as like a major problem. Also, isolation of tests is not possible, because Karma runs all the tests in one context, in one window, and you have no chance to just refresh the whole page. It just runs everything in one run, which is good in a way so that you write isolated tests, but in some cases you have things you might want to test which can't be reverted without refreshing the page or having a different page. And if you would like to integrate this, for example, with the UI5 tooling or with some other local server, you would need to start this up in addition. So you need to run the server before and then execute the Karma runner. Or if you're using the CDN, then this is not a problem, but sometimes you would like to also use local dependencies. So what we came up with was a new major version of the plugin. With that, we also renamed it to Karma UI5 to align with our other UI5 toolings, and to emphasize that this is not only limited to OpenUI5, but it can also be used for SAP UI5 projects. And it features a new mode, which is called HTML mode, And the previous behavior of the plugin is still there. It's called now script mode because it just inserts script tags, and with the HTML mode you're able to run your existing HTML pages. And this then results in a consistent setup, so you don't need to have duplicate configuration for your Bootstrap. And if you run the test manually in the browser or maybe via the web IDE, then you will have the same setup also in your test automation. And one point is that we also integrated this with the UI5 tooling. So if your project is using the UI5 tooling, then you don't need to spin up a server. It just automatically serves the resources you have locally. So with that, I would like to show what this means with your configuration file. So this is a typical configuration file you have if you're using the old version of our plugin. So it's really a lot, and the major pain point here is that it's even duplicated configuration. So you need to sync them. And with the new plugin, it's just easy as registering the framework and configuring the URL where to load UI5 from. And if you're using the tooling, then you can also get rid of this URL, and it's just one line of additional configuration. For sure, you will have additional configuration for the Karma runner in general, like the browser, reportings, things like that. But just for the plugin, it's just this line. And now I would like to show this in a demo. So I've prepared our OpenUI5 sample app. You might know in a way that it right now is an existing application. It has unit tests. It has also linting in place, but not test automation. So if I would now want to have a CI integration to validate if my application is working, this is not there yet. So that's what I would like to enable here. So first of all, I would like to just start the UI5 server. Oh, sorry, I first need to install My Dependencies. So to show you what this project is about, and also the tests it already has. So now UI5 serve to run the server. And now in the browser I can refresh, can open the index.html file, and you see this to-do app. So you can tick off to-do items. It's pretty simple, mainly to demonstrate how to integrate tools like this. We have this application on GitHub, so you can check it out. And we don't focus on writing really complex applications here. So what we also have is a test folder, and in there we have an integration folder, and there we have opatest unit HTML. So that's usually the HTML file you run if you manually execute your tests. So this will go through scenarios like adding items and so on to test all the features the app has, and then shows the status. So that's now already working, but it's not automated. And I would like to do this now. So therefore, I go to the Karma OpenUI5 plugin on GitHub, and I will just go to the Quick Start section and follow the steps. So first, I need to install the Karma CLI. So this will make the Karma command available on my command line. Then I will install Karma as a framework in our plugin. Takes a while. Maybe I should have connected to the cable, but keep fingers crossed. And then you also need a launcher for your browser. So otherwise it doesn't know what to do and where to run your test set. We're using Chrome here, but there are also launchers for several other browsers, and also Selenium launcher, so you can connect this to a Selenium infrastructure if you have something like that already. So as said, it's pretty flexible. You could even run your own launchers if you want. But usually with the Chrome launcher, they are pretty, it's a pretty good setup. I will come to that also later why this is the case. So I installed now all the dependencies. Now I come to the configuration. So as said, it's pretty simple. You need a karma.conf.js file, so that's the standard name of a Karma configuration. And this is like the basic setup you need. And as said, if you're using the UI5 tooling, then this will integrate and use the local dependencies you have via the tooling. Otherwise, you can just specify a URL to load UI5 from. So in my editor, I will create a new file called karma.conf.js and just paste this in and remove the URL because I don't need it, as this project has the tooling enabled. But yeah, it also works if you have a project which is not enabled by the new UI5 tooling. So if you're just having a normal project, this is all fine. So this is not mandatory, it's just optional. And now I can just type karma start to execute the tests. So the plugin will now analyze the project, see if it's an application or a library, check for your existing test files, and if it is able to find it, which should work for like the best practice apps and for every, so to say, normal app, then it will automatically execute the tests. If this is not the case, then there are several ways to configure it. That's all described in the GitHub page. So, so you are not limited to this very setup of an app. You can configure those things as well. So right now the browser is still there, and that's because Karma is running in so to say watch mode. So if I now would change files in my app, it automatically, I will just add an empty line here, but you will see it executes the tests again. So this can be used for test-driven development. Okay, so that's already working. So now I go even further in the execution, and I see for CI testing, I would like to do something else, because I would not like to have the browser kept open, but just that it runs once and then reports the status, whether it's successful or not. And for this, I only need 2 additional configuration options. The first one is just for the browser, that I use the Chrome headless, so it runs in background, which is required to run on CI systems where you don't have a UI. So it's not needed to display it, and also most systems are not capable of doing so. But the Chrome headless browser is then an option to do this. And this works really well. And single run true then puts it in a mode that it just runs once. And instead of having, again, a duplicate configuration, which we do not want, I will copy this and create a new configuration file called karma-ci.conf.js. So that's just one convention. You can name whatever you want. There's just this karma.conf.js name, which is the standard name, so I did not need to type the file of the configuration with the karma start command. And now instead of just copying my existing configuration, although it's not that much, I can just inherit from this. So I will do just plain Node.js code here. I will require this configuration because it exports a function, and I will hand over the config parameter. So if I now execute this file, it will first take the configuration of my standard configuration and then puts or merges these 2 options on top. So this way you can have a basic configuration and then have also several other cases. Maybe you would like to test in different browsers. You can also configure this in a way, or to run less or more tests, you can have a base configuration, then just inherit with this concept. So now all I need to do is to karma start karma ci.conf.js. And now you don't see any browser because it runs Chrome headless. And it will exit if it executed all the tests with a status of success in this case. So that's already working if I type this command, but now to integrate this in my CI, I need to connect it to my existing setup. And for Node.js projects, this is usually your package.json file. And in this project, we already have the test command, which is the standard command, which is recommended to put your scripts in, which should be run in a CI environment, or if you want to test your project locally. So right now, it just runs lint, which runs ESLint, but I would like to add also a Karma script, Karma, which then just does Karma start. So that's the one with the UI for development. And then Karma start Karma ci.conf.js, and I name it Karma CI. So now I can just afterwards run npm run Karma CI, and this will then run my tests after the linting. So to try that, I will do npm test. And that's what usually CI systems do by default, or you can configure them to run this command after an install. And then it's pretty clear that this validates your project. So you should put all the tests you would like to run in the test command. And if you would like to run less tests, you can just have custom scripts to put them in there. If you just do linting, you can run lint, but test should usually test the whole project. So this went through. So now I'm prepared for the CI environment. But I missed one part, which is also a feature of Karma, and it's pretty simple to configure as well, and that's code coverage. So right now I don't know what the tests are doing, so they might not even do anything which makes sense. So they might just do assertions if true equals true. So it runs through, but I don't know if this validates my code. And one option to do this is code coverage. So for this, I have prepared some script or some configuration, and I will explain this in a second. So yeah. I hope you can see it also in the back. So first of all, you need to configure a preprocessor in Karma, which then instruments your code files to be or to write the coverage results. So those files are instrumented with certain statements to count up the line coverage, or also statement coverage. And I just exclude the test folder because I don't want the coverage of my test files, but just of the files in my project. And that's just all you see here is just the standard Karma stuff you do. So that's not specific to our plugin. It just works together because of the ecosystem Karma provides. Then I configure the reporter, and this one just will create reports, and I also want to make sure that I have 100% code coverage for this app. Maybe it's not realistic, but for this app, because it has not that much code, we can do this here. And also I enabled coverage reporter to run. And what I missed is to also install the Karma coverage plugin, because it's built on plugins, so you need to load this or install this as well. And now I can do npm test again, and this will now execute the tests in Chrome headless with coverage reporting enabled. And it will fail if the coverage is not, if the threshold is not met. So I missed something because it doesn't show the report. I did not save the file, okay, sorry. Again. Okay, so you see the coverage report, and if it doesn't met the thresholds you configure, then this will also fail. So you can make sure that the coverage is at a certain percentage. And there are also other ways or other things in our plugin to do, which I would like to show, but I'm running out of time, I think. So you can just check out the GitHub project. One cool thing is that you can actually specify this URL via a CLI parameter. So you can have one test execution to run against maybe an older UI5 version to make sure that you are still compatible with that. So for example, if I would run this project against 152, it won't work because I'm using APIs which are introduced with 160 or 65. And this is something you can also use here. And as I mentioned, there are certain configurations you can do, but most of them work out of the box. And if not, the tool will tell you what's wrong and will give you a hint what you can do and point you to the documentation. So with that, I will just shortly tell a bit about the Outlook. So right now, we integrated this with UI5 tooling projects, but it's not part of the UI5 tooling. So you need to create this Karma configuration file and install the dependencies on your own, which is good because it's not coupled, so you can use it if you're not using the tooling. But we would also like to go a step further to integrate this, for example, in the UI5 test command, that you don't need to configure this and then just provide it out of the box. Thank you for your attention. And if you would like to ask questions, because maybe we're running out of time, I'm in the expert corner at 1:45. Yeah, thanks.